Hello beautiful people of the internet, hope you're all well. If you're new here to my channel, then hello and welcome. My name is Luisa and I upload new videos every Thursday all about fashion and beauty. Today's video is all about designer handbags that I've sold and why throughout the years. I'm gonna keep it to 5 handbags for now. We're gonna see how this video goes down, and if you guys like it, then I may film a part 2 in the future, who knows, but I didn't want to film a super long video when it gets up being boring and nobody really watches, so I think 5 is a good number. I'm gonna jump straight into it, and the very first handbag that I want to mention is the Louis Vuitton Speedy 35. I had this handbag in the classic monogram design and I bought it, I want to say like 13-14 years ago. It was for sure one of the very first Louis Vuitton items in my collection. I'm not sure if it was the very first one, because there is another handbag that I will mention later on in this video, but that it may have been my very first, but it was for sure one of the first Louis Vuitton items I ever bought. Back then I didn't know anything about Louis Vuitton or designer handbags in general. I just thought the bigger the better, and I ended up buying the 35, which I want to be honest and say that in the first 2 to 3 years I did enjoy using and carrying this handbag a lot, but as the years went by I started reaching for this handbag less and less, and at the time I was accumulating more designer handbags, so I reached a point where I wasn't using the handbag at all, and I filmed a video which I'm gonna link right here on the screen for you guys, which is a comparison of my Speedy 30, which I still have in my collection, and the Speedy 35, and I talked a little bit more in depth about the things I didn't like, and that video made me realize that actually I don't really like that handbag anymore. I don't want to have it in my collection any longer, so that video made me decide that it was the time for me to sell it. The 35 for me, it was kind of an odd size. It was a little bit too big on my frame. Just for reference, I am 5'8", but still the bag looked a little bit too big, and because it was a bigger bag, I just felt, I don't know, subconsciously that I had to fill it to the rim. So I was carrying items that I wouldn't necessarily would have carried otherwise, just because I could. So the bag was always too heavy and didn't have a shoulder strap because it wasn't the bandolier, and I was just carrying it on my hand. It was so heavy. Other times when I decided, okay, I'm gonna go more minimalistic and not carry as much, it kind of lost its shape because it was too large and it looked a little bit saggy, which I didn't like. And I know a lot of people suggested that I could have bought like organizer, like an interior organizer for my bag, but I thought it was, you know, well, it was time for me to let go, so I sold that bag. The second handbag that I sold, it was again from Louis Vuitton, and it is the Posette Accessoire or Posette Accessoire, I'm not really sure how to pronounce it. And I had it in the Damier Ebene, and up until this day it is the only Louis Vuitton item that I ever bought in the Damier Ebene design. I remember very vividly when I bought this handbag because when I was 18 years old, my mother and I took a trip in Paris. It's just the two of us. My dad stayed at home, and it was like a girls' trip in Paris, and we bought this handbag at Galeries Lafayette. When I first bought this handbag, I was really excited and I loved it, but I didn't really use it that much. I mean, I did use it when I was out with my friends or out partying, but very soon I feel like this bag felt preppy, and I guess my style was evolving at the time, so I felt like this handbag had a certain style that wasn't in line with my style at the time. And also I felt that it was at a time where the Posette Accessoire gained so much popularity that, and even though I wasn't carrying the bag anymore, I would still go out and see a ton of other girls holding this bag, and it kind of lost its magic. It wasn't something special anymore. So I decided it was time for me to let go. I have filmed a video though about key items on how to start a luxury collection, and this bag is featured there, so I will leave it on the screen for you guys if you want to go and have a look. The next handbag I sold was from Prada, and I'm sorry if I got the name wrong. I couldn't remember it for the life of me, so I had to look it out. It was the large shopping bag from Prada. And I had it in the black leather. I want to say about this handbag around 2009 from Harrods, and back then it was one of my most expensive handbags because at the time it cost more than £1,000, and that was a big deal for me. I bought it at a time when I wanted to stay away a little bit from Louis Vuitton because it was getting so popular. So I thought at the time that Prada was the way to go. I hadn't searched for this handbag, I hadn't even searched for the fashion house. To be fair, this was more of a spontaneous buy. I just walked into Prada, I saw this bag, fell in love and bought it. But this was, as the name would suggest, it was the large shopping bag, so it was massive. It was really ginormous. I cannot describe to you how big it was. You could literally fit everything and the kitchen sink in it. But unlike the Louis Vuitton Neverfull, that is a canvas bag, this was an all leather handbag. So it was very heavy, and the moment you start adding things to it, it became heavier and heavier. So I would literally go out, and a couple of hours of carrying this bag, I would end up with severe shoulder pain, and this is no joke, you guys. I'll tell you a little bit of a funny story about this handbag very quick. A couple of months after I bought this handbag, I had an appointment at my local bank branch, and as I told you, it was an all leather handbag. I believe it was calfskin, and the lady I was having the appointment with at the bank, as soon as she saw me, you know, approaching her, she was like, "Is this real leather?" And I was like, yeah, I think so. She was like, "I can smell the leather from here." And I was like, "Oh, thank you." I suppose that was a very bizarre thing to say to someone. I don't know, I just found it weird. I love this handbag so much. I used to carry it all the time. Even though it was extremely heavy, I did put up with it because I liked it so much. It did start showing a little bit of wear and tear towards the end because I was carrying it as an everyday bag. So there was a little bit of wear in the corners of the bag specifically, and I think the zip was a little bit broken. But it was a beautiful bag. The reason I decided to let that handbag go, it was because I started looking at pictures of me like from the previous years, and I would always be that girl holding that bag. So I felt like that handbag had become almost like second skin to me almost, and I didn't like that. So I thought the only way for me to stop carrying this bag is that if I replace it with a new one. So I decided to sell that one on eBay. And have I regretted selling that bag? No, because you know what? I carried it for so long. I think I treasured that handbag, and it was just time to move on. The next handbag I sold was the Gucci Seri Canvas Shopping Tote. That was a mouthful to say. I want to say that I regretted buying this designer handbag almost immediately. I don't know why, it just something didn't click. I think I was drawn to it because of the beautiful design, but I didn't really think of the practicality of it. It was a shopping tote, but it was in a small size, so you couldn't really fit a lot of things in it. And again, this was a bag that I bought spontaneously. I didn't, you know, give much thought to it. I just liked the bag and got it. But as I said, it was a weird size, so it was a shopping tote, but it was a small shopping tote. It was quite narrow and tall almost, so I couldn't fit a lot of things in there. Even though it was a canvas bag, the straps, it had like 2 shoulder straps, were leather, but they were quite short, and even though there were shoulder straps, you couldn't really fit it over your shoulder, especially in the winter that I used to wear a coat. This bag wouldn't go over my shoulder, so I ended up holding it in the crook of my arm. I don't know, something about this bag wasn't right for me, and because it was a shopping tote, it didn't have any closer or zippers or anything, and when I put it on the side, it will flip over and things will just slide out of my bag. And yeah, it was one of the bags that I immediately knew that it wasn't for me, so I decided to let it go. Up to this day, this was the only Gucci handbag I ever bought, and I would like at some point to add another Gucci handbag in my collection. Whether I'm gonna go for canvas or leather, I have no idea. But yeah, the thought of adding another Gucci at some point seems appealing to me. I haven't seen anything that, you know, it is on my wish list right now, but yeah, I don't see why not getting another one in the future. The fifth and final handbag that I decided to sell comes from Miu Miu, and I'll have to read the name, otherwise I'll butcher it. It was the Miu Miu Matelas shoulder bag. And I swear to you guys, I bought it in the most odd, bizarre color there is ever. I bought it in this very muted blue/grey color. I could never pinpoint what color it was. I was seeing it blue, or everybody else was seeing grey. It was a bizarre color for sure. This bag, again, I bought it on a whim. I was browsing in Selfridges one day and I just happened to walk into Miu Miu and I saw this bag, fell in love and bought it. I quickly want to say one thing. Although we don't hear, at least here on YouTube and, you know, handbag forums about Miu Miu very often, I do really appreciate their leather and the craftsmanship that goes into their handbags. I think they use really good quality leathers. The reason I decided to sell this handbag, it was primarily the color. I think I was at the point of my life where I was trying to branch out from black. Majority of my handbags were black and I was like, no, I'm gonna look for a different color. I'm gonna go for something exciting. But the color choice I made was not a great one. It was honestly a very bizarre color. It was not blue, it was not gray, but it was also very muted, almost dead, kind of blue or gray. I don't know if that makes any sense, but it was very bizarre, and I found that it was difficult for me to style. It did look good in white, but let's be honest, how often do you wear white? So yeah, I didn't use that bag a lot because of its color. The other thing that I didn't like very much, it was because it was a small bag, it was a shoulder bag, kind of the Louis Vuitton pochette accessoire. It wasn't that small, it was a little bit wider, but it was the same kind of style of bag. It was that the fact that for such a small handbag, the hardware was a little bit too much. I mean, it had at the end of the zip, it had a padlock, but it looked massive in comparison to the rest of the bag, and it wasn't really of any use because the padlock didn't come with any key, so it was just for decor, I suppose. So that was a little bit bizarre, but also, and that I find with the majority of the Miu Miu handbags, the hardware, it was gold, and I find that the Miu Miu gold hardware is a little bit too bright or too shiny, that it looked almost cheap or too fake or too yellowy. I cannot really pinpoint what exactly, but it just didn't feel right. I love gold hardware. Black and gold is just like my favorite combo ever, but that type of gold, that very bright yellowy gold, it just felt bizarre and very fake to my eyes. So I decided to let that handbag go, and to be fair, I haven't regretted it one bit. So that was everything from me, you guys. These were 5 designer handbags that I decided to sell and the reasons why I did so. If you like this video, as always, don't forget to give it a good old thumbs up, and I'll see you all next Thursday with another video. Bye, you guys.